Welcome, everybody, to this AutoSuccess webinar. My name is Matthew Davis. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Trade Pending. We are continuing on with our 20 questions series, and we're going to start with question number one. Who is our guest? Please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are.
All right. Well, first, let me say I'm super grateful to be here. What an exciting time to be in automotive. My name is Matt Like. I have several titles that have kind of evolved over the last few years, none of which fully grasp the scope of what I actually do every day. But my newest name tag says e-commerce leader on it, and it would be way too much to fit like regional director of e-commerce and business development, coach, mentor, therapist, trainer, so on. The title's totally made up, means nothing. I just help people sell more cars right here in North Central Florida.
Wonderful. Next question. Where do you perform all of these various tasks?
Thank you. So I work in 14 different dealerships across 3 different cities, representing several different brands, foreign and domestic, including luxury. I've been with the Morgan Auto Group for going on 11 years now.
Got it. And what makes Morgan Auto Group different? Why do you like being there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Morgan Auto Group, they recently ranked in the top 10 of Automotive News's annual list of the top 150 dealerships in the US. So in 2021, we actually jumped from number 11 all the way up to number 8, and we're growing at an exponential rate. We put a strong focus on people. They're the lifeblood of our business, and that goes for both employees and customers. We kind of operate in a very decentralized way without like a lot of corporate bureaucracy, and but we do have auxiliary support roles, kind of like mine, that really just help dealers focus on the most important areas of their business. And our philosophy is we make it happen, and boy, do we.
Wonderful. And so, what's your relationship with Trade Pending? Said another way, how did we end up here today on this event together?
Yeah, man, it's been kind of a rocket ship the way this took off. But a few short years ago, I had absolutely no experience with trade pending, although I was like somewhat familiar just because of like the trade tool and branding on other dealers' websites, but had never used it myself. And then at one point, we acquired a Nissan store in Jacksonville, Florida. And I was part of the team that did that buy sell. And part of my job was kind of analyzing the vendor partners that the previous ownership left for us. And so I had analyzed the CRM source reporting, and when I came across trade pending, I was just really impressed with the sheer volume of leads that they were delivering compared to a lot of the other lead sources, as well as the above benchmark closing percentage. So I had to do a little bit more digging. And so I had reached out, after auditing the website and finding out how simple it was for a consumer to get a value as well as submit a lead in like less than 10 seconds. I had to learn a little bit more because I wasn't having that same experience with the other tools at my dealership. So I'd reached out to the area rep. His name was David, and he and we hit it off instantly. I mean, he's just a great dude. He's been a huge part of my success, kind of in my automotive journey here. And he's, I don't really consider him to be like a vendor or like a partner. He's more of like a great friend and just an all around great dude. He's been a huge part of my success. I ended up testing the trade pending tool at one of my other dealerships after getting kind of introduced to it at this Nissan store, and it performed really well. And from there, it just kind of exploded. And then it was just like everybody just kind of jumped on, and now I've got it at all 14 stores in my region, and we continue to see excellent results month in and month out from that conversion avenue.
Wonderful. Thank you for that context. All right, so we're going to jump into the meaty stuff right now. So what the heck is going on with the FTC regulation in automotive right now?
All right, man, what a loaded question. Now, this is going to be a very long answer, and I promise after this I will keep it brief. But here we go. According to the FTC, they've received an uptick in consumer complaints over the last 3 years, totaling over 100,000 annually, which is kind of crazy. Now, on June 27th, the FTC Commission proposed a new set of rules for dealers that would make commonplace dealership sales strategies illegal. So these are obviously not in effect right now, but they may not ever be, but there's certainly a divide on this issue. And currently there's a public commenting period going on through September 12th. And that's where the FTC is going to review all the feedback from consumers and dealers and, finalize this proposal one way or the other. Now, these new rules are supposed to protect consumers and honest dealers by making the car buying process more clear and competitive. There's a few notable sections that we should consider when looking at these rules that could radically change the way that dealers sell cars, especially to consumers who start their shopping journey online. So these 4 notable sections we should consider. The first one talks about banning what they call bait and switch claims. Now, the proposal would prohibit dealers from making a number of advertising claims to prospective car buyers, and this can include the cost of a vehicle, the terms of financing, whether that's going to be for a lease, the cost of any add-on products or services, discounts and rebates availability, the actual availability of the vehicles that are being advertised, and whether a financing deal has been finalized, also known as like a spot delivery. It could change a lot of those things, as well as other areas. Now, the second section we should consider is about banning fraudulent junk fees. They call them the junk fees. So the proposal would prohibit dealers from charging consumers what the FTC is calling junk fees for certain add-on products and services that provide really no benefit to the consumer. And they use the example of nitrogen-filled tires, something that's very common that I see, at dealers all across the country. But some of these contain no more nitrogen than the air we breathe. And so this is something the FTC is starting to kind of crack down on, but this also extends to like duplicated warranty coverages, also gap insurance to consumers that it wouldn't benefit, such as those in like really good equity positions. And now the third notable section is kind of similar to the last, and it's proposed to ban surprise junk fees, as they call them. The proposal would prohibit dealers from charging consumers for add-on products without their clear upfront written consent, and it would require dealers to inform the consumer about the price of the car without any optional add-ons. So that could seriously change the way that dealers price their vehicles on the lot and online, depending on how they choose to do business. And finally, the fourth section would require a full upfront disclosure of costs and conditions. So that proposal would require dealers to make key disclosures to customers, including providing a true offering price that excludes only government taxes and fees. Now, it would require dealers to make disclosures about those add-on fees, including their price and the fact that they are not required as a condition to do business. And then the other, disclosures about financing terms, et cetera. So long gone could be the days of, seeing one price online and then having these market adjustments or dealer addendums that can total in, the several thousands of dollars that oftentimes surprises customers if dealers don't practice transparency, especially and stand behind the value of those things that they're offering to their consumers, which ultimately, the goal is to help them protect their long-term investment with this vehicle and get the most amount for their trade-in when they go to turn it back in. And of course, some of that is going to be profit as well. But these rules were voted on by the commission and passed 4-1 with really only one dissenting voice, and that was from Christine Wilson, a commissioner from the state that I currently operate in here in Florida. She says that experience reveals that even when motivated by the best of intentions, regulatory schemes frequently fail to generate promised improvements for their intended beneficiaries. Instead, they tend to create market distortions that stifle innovation, increase costs and prices, and ultimately harm consumers. And for those reasons, I respectfully dissent, she said. And then, although according to Automotive News, the public comments actually show overwhelming support for these new rules proposed by the FTC, things aren't really so black and white, because there's also dissenting opinion from the National Automobile Dealers Association, or NADA, and that's where things start to get really complicated, because while NADA has argued that obtaining a buyer's stated approval prior to the final signing will cause everything to kind of drag out, the FTC believes that its amendments are going to result in a more efficient transaction where customers leave the dealership feeling totally satisfied with their purchase. Now, NADA also claims that their plans are kind of careless, excessively general, and don't consider how the market actually operates. NADA gave an interview to Automotive News recently where they offered their response to the situation, and overall they seem to believe that the FTC's justification for these new rules is not based on hard data. And many of those complaints that the FTC cited were unverified, and some of the studies used qualitative, not quantitative data, which, these results make claims about how confused customers were about automotive pricing in general. Now, NADA is claiming that the number of valid complaints is likely less than 0.5%, totaling all transactions, even if we assumed every single one of them was legitimate, not someone just like blowing off steam after like a bad purchase decision. So I told you that was a long answer.
It was, and there's definitely a lot in there. So, how do you and how is Morgan Auto Group thinking about unpacking all that? Is it wait and see? Is there preparatory work that you're doing ahead of time? Where do you go with this?
Yeah, great question. And so there's absolutely preparatory work to do ahead of time. And right now, more than ever, I personally believe that transparency is important, especially to, repairing customer sentiments and the way that they relate to dealers, especially historically. Now, but I think that this matters because if these rules pass, the FTC, I think, could unintentionally be doing dealers a big favor. Now, with the rise of direct-to-consumer sales model like Tesla and Carvana, we've seen a large number of customers, over the last couple of years that actually prefer to do business using technology and e-commerce and stuff like that to save time and what they perceive to be a hassle, which I'll admit many car dealers have been guilty of in the past, right? Now, I personally have a vested interest in the dealership model, right? Where the franchise dealers get to sell the cars and the OEMs do not go direct to consumer. I mean, that's how I feed my kids. It's given me the career that has absolutely changed my life, right? So I would hate to see like an eventual repeal of those franchise laws that would just allow the OEMs to go direct to the consumer. So I think more transparency is like a step in the right direction to giving customers more of what they want and providing that transparency. That could begin to repair, the sour sentiments that, have developed over time because of the way that certain dealers have done business. So I'm all about the love and the good vibes. And, I think we just need more of that when it comes to selling cars, especially those online.
Got it. Shifting gears a bit, forgive the pun. Are we on the verge of a used car loan apocalypse?
All right. So after the pandemic hit, we had a lot of like relief programs and stimulus programs that created opportunities for borrowers to have additional income, right? Whether that was going to be from stimulus checks or child tax credits, or deferred rent and mortgage payments, all that kind of stuff. We saw a lot of business that seemed to come more easily than usual, right? But that started to change, here over a short period of time. Inflation has gone crazy. I mean, the price of cars, the price of gas to put in those cars, this isn't just affecting like the subprime lending category. This is also extends into the prime lending category as well. Car loan defaults have gone up to almost 9% earlier this year, which is a 15-year high according to Equifax. So, I mean, it's definitely impacted, I believe, the market in general, and I think that's going to have an effect on used car prices here in the near future.
What are you guys doing about it?
All right. So when it comes to the FTC, when it comes to the used car loan apocalypse, there's several things that we have started to do to kind of start preparing for this. And so one of the things that we've started to do is just we've become much more clear and upfront about our pricing. And, that's a definite start. We've put forth a lot of effort to clearly disclose any additional add-ons that we may have at certain dealerships. And that can all be found right on the website. We've got like the little asterisk on our prices that points people to the appropriate disclaimers that explains everything. It's right there, very upfront, clear, and transparent. We've also added those same disclaimers into our initial first email response so that everything's going to be, as upfront and transparent as possible. And I find that when you do that with customers, oftentimes people are willing to pay a little bit more as long as they have all the information necessary to make a good decision. And as long as they feel like they're being heard and understood, we operate in like a very hyper competitive environment where it's been sort of like a race to the bottom with dealer pricing online. And so a lot of times, on the one hand, you've got dealers who are like, well, if we just price them with everything included, then you're not going to get any eyeballs on these cars. You won't get any leads. And then it's like, on the other hand, the consumers need to be informed in order to make the best possible purchasing decision. So we've kind of taken the best of both of those and married them up and found a way that seems to be working. Our lead conversion is doing well. We're tracking higher now than we have earlier in the year. We're doing very good. And then, of course, our closing percentages are continuing to do well, even as the market is tightening. But it's only because of this additional preparation we've started to do. And, I've doubled down on training with our sales teams, especially when it comes to building the value in those addendums or explaining the market adjustments that may or may not be on certain vehicles as we kind of prepare for these potential rules to go into effect, which then we'll have a whole nother thing to start training on, I'm sure.
Yeah, you can't mention the pandemic and the move of things online without getting your hot take on digital retailing, right? There's a big push from OEMs, like consumers are, the numbers are kind of, they pushed up a bit and then they're kind of going back to their normal growth curves now. What is your hot take on digital retailing right now as we sit a little more than halfway through 2022?
Yeah, absolutely. So digital retailing is one of those things that it's been around for a little while now. I remember, getting introduced to this several years ago, right? And it was kind of cutting edge back then, but it wasn't something everybody was doing. Customers over the last few years, they were locked down. Dealerships were limiting the number of people that they were allowing into the showroom. So it was like one of these opportunities where, I've seen a rapid adoption, like accelerated adoption of digital retailing in the automotive space over the last couple of years because of that, because it makes it easier for customers to get the information, calculate their payments before visiting the dealership or before having the dealership visit them. In many cases, right? We were delivering cars and paperwork a long time ago. Like I started doing that in 2014. This is like, this is the internet department that's going to start doing that way before a pandemic was even a thing. And then once the pandemic hit, we were already prepared for that because we've been doing it for a little while now, right? Just trying to make consumers' lives better, make the shopping journey and experience easier for them, right? So now that that's really, really popular, it's like digital retailing is kind of all over the place. Every store in Morgan Auto Group now has a digital retailing tool. And we've actually come out with a corporate branding for that. It's called Morgan Bypass. It's really great. There's going to be, additional marketing efforts towards that. But, when it comes to digital retailing, I believe the more transparent you are, the better off you're going to be. It's like, these leads can't be treated like any other lead once you receive them into your CRM. What really works with them is taking the time to fully understand what journey that customer just went on and dissecting every piece of that digital retailing lead so you understand what is most important to that customer. If you respond like I see a lot of dealers respond with just like, oh yeah, the car's available, when can you come in? And that is going to be a quick way to get all of your emails put right into the trash. And but if you do take the time to say, okay, hey, I see that you're looking to put this down payment with this monthly amount, you've got to trade in with this payoff. It seems like you're looking for this type of payment with this lender. We may have some additional options that could help you and save you some more. There's just lots of ways that you can respond, but you have to take the time to really analyze that lead and respond appropriately. It would be like if you went to order some food and you put your soup, salad, breadsticks all in the basket, you've got your cart, you checked out, you're all good, and the next thing you know, they're like, oh, well, here's your soup and your salad. Where you're like, where's my breadsticks? Right? You took all the time to put all that stuff in your cart. That's basically the same concept when it comes to digital retailing in the automotive space. So the most important thing is really to just congratulate the customer for taking the time to do all of that and save time, which is one of the major benefits of using the digital retailing platforms. And it's, of course, it's our job to make it as easy as possible for them to finish that transaction. And, only 2% of people are currently going all the way through these digital retailing tools to the final step. But it's our job to be ready and prepared for those other 98%.
Yeah, a pat on the back for completing that process is a nice touch. Riffing on that a bit, so you're highlighting kind of what's working and how you guys are approaching it. Have there been some lessons learned from you guys of what hasn't worked with digital retailing?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the training that I do with our teams, I bring them in, we'll pull up a lot of different leads from different sources. And oftentimes we look at those digital retailing leads, and I will find that every now and again, we may slip into bad habits, or something may happen where, we use the wrong type of email response. And one of the things we have seen that has really, really worked well is video, and including video in all of our, first email communications and our text messaging and stuff like that. So if the email's missing a video, that's one of the things I consider to just be unacceptable in today's day and age, because not only do most dealers have video now, because it's almost become standard practice. Customers are always asking for videos because they're just used to it by now. But there's free tools that are out there that's like, there's no excuse not to leverage this technology to humanize yourself, to make yourself familiar to that customer, so they see like this, nice, friendly person who's there to serve them. And they can feel that, they can sense that your sincerity in the video, and that's going to bring down their walls, their defenses. They're going to feel more open to connecting and communicating with you, as long as you present it in the right way. And it's not a hard thing to do. It's really just
Yeah.
like when you wake up in the morning, are you ready to help? Are you ready to serve somebody? And if you got that, all you got to do is smile. And if you mess up on video, even better, because it makes you a human, right? And that's the best part about it.
Yeah, building upon that, what else are you coaching and training and teaching your teams on right now?
Yeah, so right now I have seen, the main thing is just remembering what it's truly like to be a salesperson. Over the last 2 years, it has been one of the best times in history to sell cars, right? We've had a lot of people come into the dealership over the last couple of years that know nothing of the pre-pandemic car business. And so now that we're seeing the market start to tighten, you're going to have some folks who are sitting there holding the bag, wondering where their cheese went, right? Somebody moved their cheese. So now more than ever, it's important that we do not get complacent. We can't rest on our laurels. It's time to step our games up, sharpen our skills, and serve customers at the highest level possible. Because when things start to get really tight, then you can't rely on the transactional model of selling. It's got to be a relationship model of selling. And that's one of the biggest differences. And the things that I train on with my teams is, just having that willingness to serve, and going above and beyond, doing more than anybody else would do for this customer, and ultimately being different. If you act like your competition, that's what you're going to be treated like. And so it's all about, your own personal marketing, your own branding, and just making sure that you're doing more than the average salesperson would do, just being that, different person. And of course, leveraging video in the communication, something we're always training on. That's key to accomplishing that, and then being different. So we spend a lot of time training on lead response, a lot of that on video. And then of course, I've got word tracks and scripts that I've put together to help them, but I'm a firm believer that your enthusiasm and your confidence and just your willingness to help somebody is going to trump a script or a word track any day. Right. But they can be helpful
Amen.
to like just pull out of your little mental library.
Yeah. You briefly mentioned marketing there. Which marketing channels are you guys seeing prove the most effective right now?
Yeah, so I would say this is the same as it's always been, and that's going to be first party leads, anything and everything from the dealership's website. That's always been the most effective historically, and that hasn't really changed in recent times. Now, these are the opportunities that my teams we can't afford to miss. We have to capitalize on those the most. And, we can't really miss leads from our other conversion avenues either, because, we want to get everything. But those first party leads are the ones that tend to close at the highest possible rate. And so that's where we, tend to focus, most intensely. So I see a lot of success though from salespeople who have begun doing their own personal marketing on social media and kind of prospecting to their own backyards, creating their own little branding. They'll go out and they can take a video of, 5 or 6 vehicles that just came in from the night before, putting them on their Facebook stories, using little text blurbs over the top, text me at, and then just talk about the car. This one's so nice. If I had 50 of these, I'd sell 50 in a day. It's amazing. Right. And so just having those little stories in there, posting nice things about the cars, become really, really helpful. And I think that's going to be helpful moving forward if and when traffic begins to slow down because of like a tightening economy. So,
Yeah,
if
speaking of things
the other thing
slowing
is that
down. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, I'd alluded earlier to the relationship model of selling, right? And so you've got this transactional model where, some salespeople just come to the dealership and they just wait. That's their job, is to wait, right? They wait for opportunities, wait for the phone to ring, wait for a customer to walk in, wait for an internet lead to hit the CRM. That is not going to work in the very near future if things continue to go the way they're going, right? And so one of the most important things that we look at for an effective marketing channel is going to be your own prospecting. This is something that, the salespeople pre-pandemic were pretty good at, right? But over the last couple of years, it's like, oh, we don't have to do that, right? But a day is going to come where you're going to need to do this, especially if you want to continue to win and, earn the income that your family needs and meet your own personal goals. So if you sell cars, you need to meet everyone, every single person you meet, and you need to treat them like royalty, right? You have to treat them like gold because that's what they are. Now, if you can find ways to meet everybody, improve their lives, right? Make them better off than they were before they met you, and find ways to just let them know who you are and what you do, and you do that repeatedly, the sales are going to come. That's what you want, is people who come into the dealership asking for you, because that is your own marketing channel, right? You don't have to wait. Everything that you get from the dealership should just be gravy on top. And that's my 2 cents.
Thank you for that. You briefly mentioned things slowing down, and we're seeing this a bit in our data that the value of used cars is starting to level off. It's starting to come back. It's still above kind of pre-pandemic levels. What are you guys seeing in terms of the values of used cars?
Yeah, no, great question. So, I believe last year NADA changed their books and it was in the multiple thousands of dollars every single time. It's crazy how used car values have appreciated so much. It's like they've become an appreciating asset for the first time in history, right?
It's weird.
So like yeah, I would interact with customers before, and when I was new, I would say like, this is an investment, and like I would have really smart customers who would tell me, no, this is not an investment. But now, I don't know. There's a case that can be made, right? And so, but what I've seen really with vehicle values is that new car prices haven't seemed to do much as of late, but they may continue to climb while inventory is scarce. Although I'm hearing some talk lately of dealers who are kind of starting to discount their addendum or their market adjustment in order to take business away. So we're staying vigilant about that, but we are still seeing almost every car selling above MSRP, especially on the new car side. But with used car vehicles, I do see some trends of some correction that is happening now, where vehicles values are starting to come down. And I think that this auto loan repo apocalypse, or the repo calypse, is going to cause prices to come down even further in the coming months.
So I'm not going to ask you to look through the lens of every single factor of the economy, but just putting your automotive lenses on here. Do we have a recession coming?
Great question. Let me put these lenses on here. So, well, I guess it won't happen if we change the definition of what a recession is. Up until 2022, a recession was historically defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. So if by that definition, then yes, as the recent reports show, that is indeed what's happened. So I believe that we are already in one. I'm by no means an economist, but I certainly can feel the squeeze that's happening right now. And then that's one of the things that we need to always keep in mind when we're working with our customers, because, empathy goes a long way in our business. And that's something, to continuously look out for. And, it helps to let the customer know that you understand,
Yeah, what kind of guidance or information are you hearing from the OEMs about inventory levels and when those might start to return to normal?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Because of the ongoing supply chain issues that are currently happening, production isn't expected to return to normal until 2023, and that could be, the second half of 2023. So we may continue to see new car prices continue to climb or remain steady until those inventory levels come back. And, significant cash incentives and rebates probably aren't going to reappear until you see those inventory levels kind of restored. And it's going to be a little while from what I understand, but I know that they are putting forth some efforts to try to get more chips, more semiconductors, that kind of thing. So hopefully it'll be sooner than later, but time will tell.
A question that I just like to ask because I'm curious, but maybe it's also helpful for other dealers to get a sense of it. How many different software vendors are you using? 5, 10, 15, 30, 100?
That's a great question. So if we're talking about like across all departments, I mean it's got to be a lot. I mean, I don't get too deep in the weeds when it comes to parts and service and like the fixed departments of the dealership world here, but even just in the variable department, I counted over 30 on the last time I looked over one of our dealerships budgets. Now, that's a lot. I've looked up, according to like CDK in an automotive news article, that the average dealer has 14 software vendors or service providers ranging from like digital marketing to lead gen tools to their CRM and phone systems. So I'd say that, we probably have more than the average, but we're also a much larger group than the average. And, we have some really dialed in budgets when it comes to our marketing efforts.
Wonderful. Final question for you here. What's next for you? What are you working on? Do you have any exciting projects to share?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, other than, juggling 4 kids, a full-time career, and just maintaining my sanity, while also trying to be healthy and pay my taxes. I've started a website in the last month, and that's called mattlike.com. It's brand new, but I'm creating a platform to really offer content and help salespeople and sales managers do their jobs more efficiently, sell more cars, and start building those relationships that it's going to take to continue to be successful as we move forward in automotive here. Now, I've put some free resources and stuff up there that is really doing well. I think people have really benefited from this stuff. I've actually started pumping out lots of content on social media. So although I've got like a TikTok and a Facebook page, I'm focused primarily on Instagram at the moment, but I've got like these little 1-minute reels of just like really valuable content that, helps dealers sell more cars. And so if that's something that's, if you got any value out of this webinar today, it's something you might be interested in, you could find me at Stop Chasing, Start Serving. And that's where you'll find me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. But yeah, so if you found any value in this today, I would appreciate if you throw me a follow. I'm sure I'll have some great stuff in there for you. But while I'm, working on this website, I've got a book that I'm starting to work on, some online courses I'm starting to work on. But in the meantime, I'm just going to be cranking out these 1-minute clips almost daily. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Matt. So we've reached the end here. So if you need amazing products for website conversion, whether that's trade-in leads, payment calculators, online merchandising, you can talk to us. That's Trade Pending. I am Matthew Davis, Chief Marketing Officer at Trade Pending. Emails matthew@tradepending.com. Matt Like from Morgan Auto Group, thank you so much. He just shared his contact information with you. We really appreciate you being on this today. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me on today. It's been truly a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time.
All right. Take care.